today's video is going to explain the mystery that is the menstrual disc auto dump. Don't know what that is? Stick around. I've done a lot of videos and now I'm doing them here on my new platform, Period Nirvana. So thanks so much for being here. First, a little refresher on what a menstrual disc is. It's kind of exactly what it sounds like. It is a round disc or bowl shaped item that is inserted into the vagina, pushed into place, and it catches your menstrual blood. It looks huge. It looks like it wouldn't fit, but what most people don't realize is that there is a little tinted area underneath the cervix, and that is where the menstrual disc sits. This comes into play when we talk about this concept of auto dumping. And it's one of the reasons that I personally love my menstrual disc. I love menstrual cups and I've used them for almost 10 years, but sometime around last year, I really converted over after trying a couple of the brands like Nixit and the Luma Unique because they just really worked well for me. And I have to say that my period has changed quite a bit over the years. And I don't want to say the word perimenopause, but I am 35. And so bodies change and periods change, and mine is getting a lot heavier. And what has happened is that I tend to leak a little bit more with my cup, and it's more finicky. And as much as I love menstrual cups, it became more finicky for me. And so I kept reaching more for my disc. It was working a lot better for me. So I will be talking a lot more about discs on Period Nirvana because they have started working better for me. And I am frankly just evangelizing a little bit for a product that's not as well known as the menstrual cup. Menstrual disc is a confusing name because some brands do call their disc a cup. But if it looks huge and round and wide, that is a menstrual disc. A menstrual cup looks more like a cup. All right, so let's first just kind of show how it goes in, and then we'll talk about what auto dumping is. You want to fold your menstrual disc long ways like a hot dog, and you want to insert it with the open portion facing you as you put it in. So if this were my body, I'd actually be facing this way, but that's confusing, so let's do it this way. Put it in, keeping it folded, push as far back as I can, and then I would take this and put it up and push it up until I can't push it up anymore, and that's kind of where the pubic bone is, and that keeps it in place. So it's tucked behind the cervix and propped up against the pubic bone. This is that tinted area I was talking about, and that is where the disc sits. Now, what can happen when you are wearing a disc and you go to use the bathroom, whether it be a number 1 or number 2, is that you will find a large amount of blood comes out. And it can be a little alarming when you're new to a disc because you automatically think that your product is leaking and things have gone horribly wrong. And I admit, I didn't really know much about auto dumping when I started. Despite how steeped I was in the menstrual community, I wasn't really aware that my disc was not failing me. I thought every time I was going to the bathroom that something was going horribly wrong and it was leaking. But then I was having minimal leaks because I was new, so I was still having some leaks. So I was kind of thinking all of that was bad. As it turned out, as I was getting better at using my disc, I wasn't leaking any other time except when I went to the bathroom. And by that point, I was recognizing that what was happening was not a leak. It was a dump. And I was effectively releasing blood while urinating as if on cue. Now, I can kind of control this, and a lot of disc users say the same. And what happens is, coupled with your body's position when you were sitting on a toilet and you are pushing to urinate or defecate, there is, between your positioning and your muscle movement, something that tilts the disc downward and allows for some, not all, some of the fluid to escape into your toilet. And that can be quite a bit. These do have a higher capacity than menstrual cups as well. Auto dumping is not a thing that works for a menstrual cup because a menstrual cup is sitting completely upright. If it were to tilt and dip, it would have to, compete with this huge amount of bottom here, and that's just not going to be a thing that happens. And so the disc is kind of the only product that you can safely empty out without having to actively empty it that exists on the market for someone with a heavier flow. Now, before you come at me in the comments saying there are these valve cups that have these sort of tubular options that pinch or squeeze to remove menstrual fluid, think a little bit about your experience with menstrual blood if you've seen it in person, and think about how that fits through a straw. It's like sucking up a smoothie, but the opposite. There's no force behind it. And some people, yeah, they've used them, they kind of like them, but if you have clotty, very viscous blood, it's not going to go through this hole. Not to mention, there really aren't any reputable brands that make those. So the valve cups for me are off the table as an option to recommend if you are looking for that. Can I just empty it without emptying an experience? But a disc is completely safe and on the table. You do want to still remove the disc, take it out, wash it, put it back in every 12 hours. So this auto dumping feature that I'm talking about is not going to be a replacement to say I can wear this for days and it's going to be so convenient, because that's not safe. So you still want to remove it and wash it every 12 hours. And so one other thing that I do like about the auto dumping feature, if it works for you, if you're a disc user, is that it kind of helps minimize the messy removal aspect of discs. No sugarcoating, removing a disc because you kind of have to pull it down vertically and anything inside will spill onto your hands. Or if you have something like this, you can pull it this way and it will still likely spill onto your hands, but it helps a little bit. It can be messy. And so there's no getting around that with a disc. There's no mitigating for the most part. But if you are able to control your auto dumping feature and strain and kind of push the disc to where it tilts enough to allow some blood to escape, that just means there's less blood in here to get on here. And so you will have a less messy experience removing it. Not mess-free. I'm kind of used to it by now, but it's not mess-free. I have mentioned before in previous videos on my previous website that the disc really saves my butt when I'm traveling, because when I do have one of those heavier days and I'm out and about in a time when we could travel, I could just kind of empty it on a toilet without having to go in and do anything about it. And I was free the rest of the day and I didn't have to worry about it overflowing and leaking. And yeah, if it fills, it will overflow and leak. Cover disc, it's going to happen. So getting all worked up here, but it's such a fun feature. It doesn't work for everyone. And in fact, if the disc fits you really well, it won't work at all. The tilting is almost a sign that it's not a perfect fit. And yet for me, it does fit really well and it doesn't leak and I'm comfortable. And so the fact that there is some movement with the disc, that it can tilt during those bathroom visits, is a selling point to me. If you are familiar with the diaphragm, a diaphragm is sort of this cap that you wear for birth control that is fitted by a physician to be a perfect fit to cover your cervix to prevent contraception. That is something that would fit so well, you're not going to experience that tilting and movement that can happen slightly with a disc. And so if you luck into picking a disc that fits as well as something that's professionally fitted for you, you're not going to get this amazing auto dump feature. So a flaw is actually kind of a pro, depending on how you look at it. Now that I've said that, I do want to point out that because it does look like a diaphragm, you might think, oh, I can just use it for contraceptive. Don't do that. They're not fitted, designed for contraceptive use. They're only for menstrual blood. And then since we're on this whole contraception kick, the other benefit of discs beyond auto dumping is that you can have penetrative intercourse with the men. This is moving a bit. Yeah, you can have P and V or T and V or F and V intercourse fun with a disc in, because it doesn't take the real estate. So while it's sometimes marketed too much for that, in an unfortunate way, it can be used for your entire period, not just period sex. It is a selling point for some. So I think that covers it. I know there have been a ton of questions on the new Period Nirvana Instagram about discs, specifically about this auto dumping feature that I've been known to talk about before. So I really wanted to cover that here on the new channel. And that said, if you're new to this channel, please make sure you subscribe. And you can also join me on Facebook at the Period Nirvana community. You can just search for that. It's a very new group. It's very small, but I hope to find more of you there as we continue on this journey together. And you can find me on all these different spaces for more menstrual cup or disc content. Thanks so much for watching.